If your life has felt painfully precise, it's because you've been in a quiet entrance exam. The results are in. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. Every delay, every closed door, every oddly timed coincidence wasn't chaos. It was calibration. The ordinary days were not ordinary. They were instruments measuring how faithfully you could carry truth when comfort slipped away. And somehow, through the noise and the doubt and the long nights, you kept your center just enough. Long enough for the pattern to reveal itself. Listen closely, not to the crowd, but to the calm between your heartbeat and your next thought. That soft interval you felt during the hardest moments. That was your signal stabilizing. Not for show, not for applause, but for integrity. Life was watching what you did when no one could see. Did you hold dignity when it would have been easier to dramatize? Did you speak gently when anger could have won the room? Did you step back from control and choose clarity instead? Each quiet, yes, rewrote a line in your story without a single announcement. You weren't asked to be perfect, only consistent. Words can pretend, vibration cannot. And the way you carried yourself when outcomes refused to obey your plans. That was the revelation. Precision followed you because you stopped chasing and started aligning. The phone rang exactly when resolve replaced fear. Help appeared the moment gratitude replaced resentment. Doors opened when you no longer begged them to. They recognized your tone and swung on their hinges as if they'd been waiting all along. So here you are, not at the beginning, not at the end. At recognition, the pattern has stepped into the light. What you thought was random has been exquisitely ordered, and your name has been written on the next chapter with steady lines. No theatrics, no grand slogans, just the quiet authority of someone who has learned to stand without forcing. The exam is over. The integration begins. Stay with me. Because what unfolds from this point is not about spectacle. It's about a life that finally matches the truth you've been carrying in silence. You felt it, didn't you? The way ordinary moments began speaking in a cleaner tone. Less noise, more meaning. The small detours, the awkward pauses, the closed doors that used to sting. They started arranging themselves, like careful punctuation in a sentence you could finally read. Not punishment, not favoritism. Just alignment revealing itself when your inner world stopped arguing with itself. Thought, emotion, action. When they shook hands, reality stopped resisting. There was a time when pressure made you sprint or explain. Now it makes you still and sincere. That isn't weakness. That is weight, bearing strength. You learn that influence isn't volume, it's order. When your words match your conduct. When your promises match your patience. When your convictions don't shatter under inconvenience. Creation around you settles. People feel safer. Rooms breathe easier. Paths that were fogged clear just enough to take the next honest step. Precision followed your honesty like a shadow. You apologized where pride once built walls. You forgave where bitterness once rehearsed its speech. You chose dignity where drama promised quick attention. And every time you did, something subtle but unmistakable shifted. Phone calls arrived. By chance, opportunities connected as if prearranged. Silence felt full instead of empty. Not magic. Maturity. Not spectacle. Steadiness. So hear this clearly. You are past the audition. The verdict is quiet and it is favorable. Not because you shouted faith in bright colors, but because you carried truth in dim hallways. Keep your posture humble. Your speech clean, your intention unmarred by envy. From here on, precision is not an accident. It is a responsibility. What you think, what you feel, what you do, let them move as one current. When they do, life answers without delay. You remember the old reflex, grasp, explain, persuade, as if outcomes could be wrestled into place. And then came the shift. A quieter authority, a steadier pulse, a decision to let truth speak without forcing its way through the door. Control is loud. Coherence is luminous. One drains. The other clarifies. When your inner state stopped contradicting itself, events stopped contradicting you. Not favoritism, not spectacle. Simply the created order answering a cleaner signal. Notice how pressure changed its voice. It used to shout, "Hurry!" Now it whispers, "Hold your tone." You no longer argue with moments. Words became careful, promises became measured, boundaries became gentle and firm at the same time. And because you would not trade dignity for speed, timing turned in your favor. Calls arrived, by chance. Paths met you halfway. Even silence carried reassurance. Not emptiness, but evidence. This wasn't about pretending calm. It was about choosing it when noise tried to rent your mind. You did not chase credit. You chose character. You did not demand doors. You refined the knock, and the world, as if relieved, stopped resisting your steps. People felt safer around your presence, not because you were impressive, but because you were consistent. Consistency is shelter. Coherence is refuge. And refuge changes atmospheres without announcing itself. So let this be written clearly. You are past proving and into stewardship. Guard your tone. Keep your intention unclouded. Refuse shortcuts that stain the result. Thought, emotion, action. Let them travel as one current without quarrel, without disguise. When they agree, reality moves with grace, not because you took control, but because you carried order, and order, by design, invites doors to open of their own accord. You noticed it, didn't you? The way quiet began carrying answers. Not tricks, not theatrics. Just a clean certainty that arrives when your heart and your conduct agree. Where you once chased explanations, you now carry evidence. The evidence of consistency. Rooms soften when you enter. Not from spectacle, but from steadiness. People lean in, not because you shout, but because you don't. Coherence speaks in a frequency that argument cannot touch. There's a different gravity around you now. Promises feel heavier. In the best way, words are chosen like keys, not like noise. You don't announce what you'll become, you let character confirm it. And character, refined under pressure, travels farther than any claim. You learn that reputation is what echoes, but integrity is what radiates. One fades when the crowd leaves. The other keeps its light when no one's watching. That is why doors open without pounding. They recognize a tone they can trust. Trials didn't end. Their purpose changed. What used to provoke reaction now becomes a mirror, showing where to polish your inner line. Disappointment arrives. You breathe, adjust. Remain dignified. Delay visits. You give thanks for precision. Not because waiting is easy, but because misaligned speed is costly. In this posture, coincidence stops stumbling. It starts arranging. The call comes, the path clears. The phrase you needed lands in your mind at the exact moment your intention turns clean. So write this truth into your core. Influence without purity becomes burden. But purity turns influence into service. Keep your compass straight. Guard your speech from bitterness and your steps from haste. Let your thought, your feeling, your action move as one current, simple, sincere, aligned. When you hold that line, reality does not need persuasion. It responds, not because you forced it, but because you carried order. And order, by design, invites everything rightful to find its place. You don't chase outcomes now, you host them. The moment you stop bargaining with life and stand in clean intention, notice what happens. The noise lowers, the path tidies, the next step appears without theatrics. This isn't luck, it's literacy. You're reading the sentence beneath events, the one that only becomes visible when your inner voice and your outer conduct agree. Pressure used to make you sprint, now it makes you steady. Steadiness is not slow, it is surgical. Opportunities feel different, lighter. clearer, rightful. You don't grasp. You greet. You don't plead. You prepare. Doors answer not to volume but to virtue. The quiet kind that kept its promise when comfort vanished. And because you no longer argue with timing, timing stops arguing with you. What belongs arrives on schedule. What doesn't, fades without drama. That is not indifference. That is trust in honorable sequence. There is a new weight to your words. A good weight. You refuse exaggeration. Decline easy cynicism. Trim every sentence until it carries only truth. People sense it. They may not name it, but they lean toward it, because clarity is hospitality for the soul. Your presence no longer competes for attention. It invites order. Rooms exhale. Tension loosens. Not through performance, through coherence that refuses to fracture under inconvenience. So let this settle. Deep precision without pressure is the signature of maturity. Keep your compass straight, your tone clean, your boundaries gentle and firm. Let thought, emotion, action travel as one current, no quarrel, no disguise. When they agree, reality does not need to be pushed. It aligns, not because you forced anything, but because you carried a harmony that creation recognizes and respects. There's a reason the air feels different around honest intention. It carries less friction. You no longer push the river. You read it. When your inner line is clean, decisions arrive as gentle certainties, rather than debates. Not louder, truer. The noisy impulse to prove yourself fades, and with it the urge to hurry. You've learned that haste is expensive. It buys mistakes at full price. Clarity, on the other hand, settles the account before the bill arrives. With clarity comes weight, the good kind. Words must be chosen like tools, not toys. A promise isn't decoration. It's architecture. You speak less, mean more, and leave space where vanity used to stand. People feel it, not as spectacle, but as safety. They relax, not because you impress them, but because you don't pretend. And when pretense leaves the room, guidance enters quietly, precisely, on time. You've noticed how alignment rearranges traffic around you. Conversations turn before conflict begins. Opportunities reach for you instead of being chased. Silence delivers what argument never could. This isn't a trick. It's integrity under steady breath. You refuse shortcuts that stain the outcome. You decline envy's invitation. It looks flattering, but it taxes the soul. You choose dignity over display, patience over performance, gratitude over grievance, and the path answers by becoming walkable. So keep the compass straight, thought emotion, action moving as one current. No quarrel, no disguise. Guard the gate of your tongue, and let your conduct carry the message your slogans never could. When you hold that tone, humble, sincere, coherent life does not need persuasion. It aligns, not because you claimed control, but because you carried order. And order, by design, invites everything rightful to take its place. You can feel it now. Character travels faster than claims. You don't need to announce growth. The room recognizes it the way the skin recognizes warmth. Not spectacle, substance. The promises you kept in private have become a fragrance people can't quite name, but they breathe easier around it. This is the quiet privilege of coherence. It calms without commanding, guides without grandstanding, reassures without a single boast. Notice how provision has changed flavor. It no longer arrives as frantic luck. It arrives as rightful fit. What belongs does not demand theatrics. It simply fits. The timing that used to confuse you now reads like good handwriting. Meetings land on the beat. Conversations turn before they harden. Even delays feel protective instead of cruel. That's not wishful thinking. That's a clean signal organizing what once scattered. You learn to treat influence like a trust, not a trophy. Less noise, more care, fewer declarations, stronger follow through. You trim exaggeration. Retire, clever cynicism. Polish your speech until it carries truth without needles. And because you refuse shortcuts that stain results, outcomes stop staining you. The world feels lighter, not because hardship vanished, but because your posture stopped leaking power. So let this settle, deep and steady. Keep your tone humble, your boundaries gentle and firm, your intention unmarred by envy. Let thought, emotion, action move as one current, no quarrel, no disguise, no performance. When they agree, life responds without being forced. Not because you seized control, but because you carried order. And order, by design, invites everything rightful to come home. You can sense it now, the difference between pushing and permission. Forcing felt like dragging the future by its collar. Flow feels like doors remembering your name. Not spectacle, not shortcuts, just a clean line from intention to event. When the inner debate quieted, the world stopped debating you. Coincidence didn't vanish, it became choreography. Steps aligning because your tone stayed true. What changed? Not the horizon, your helm. You stopped bargaining with time and started honoring sequence. No more loud demands, just steady choices that don't fracture under pressure. You speak softly, and your follow-through thunders. You move lightly, and your presence carries weight. The room relaxes because you do not compete for air. You bring order, and order makes space for everyone to breathe. The email lands by chance. The call returns out of nowhere. And yet your heart recognizes the pattern. It's the path answering integrity. Delay no longer threatens you, it protects precision. Refusal no longer insults you, it redirects purpose. Even endings feel less like collapses and more like doors closing on drafts, so the final script can be read. So mark this in bold within, and between every breath, keep your tone clean, your words careful. Your boundaries gentle and firm, refuse the glitter of haste. Choose the glow of honesty. Let thought, emotion, action travel as one current, no quarrel, no disguise, no acting. When they agree, life doesn't need to be convinced. It aligns not because you seized control, but because you carried coherence. And coherence, by design, invites everything rightful to come closer, without being chased. There is a quiet gravity that follows clean intention, a weight that doesn't crush, a presence that doesn't boast. When your inner line tells the truth, without decoration, without performance, events lean toward it, not as spectacle, as rightful order. You've felt it, conversations soften before conflict hardens. The exact phrase you needed arrives the moment pride steps aside. The path clears when you choose dignity over display. This isn't luck. It's alignment carrying its own authority. You no longer spend energy polishing appearances. You spend it protecting substance. Claims get smaller. Conduct gets stronger. You trim sentences until only sincerity remains. You retire cleverness that hides impatience. You refuse shortcuts that stain the result. And because you will not mortgage tomorrow for applause today, tomorrow keeps its promise. Doors open without noise. Provision arrives without panic. Even no begins to feel respectful. A signpost, not an insult. Notice how influence has changed shape. It used to mean attention. Now it means trust. Trust is slow to earn, quick to vanish, and priceless to carry. You guard it with careful speech, gentle boundaries, steady follow. Through, you don't rush timing. You honor sequence. You don't trade honesty for speed. You accept that precision is patient. And in that patience, guidance becomes audible. Not loud. Clear. So hold this tone, quiet, sincere, coherent, let thought. Emotion, action move as one current. No quarrel, no disguise, no hunger for display. Keep your heart free of envy and your words free of harm. When your inner world stops arguing with itself, the outer world stops arguing with you. Not because you seized control, but because you carried order. And order, by design, invites everything rightful to take its place. You don't chase recognition now. It finds you when your conduct and conscience agree. There's a steadier light in how you move, unhurried, unhyped, unmistakable. Rooms don't tilt toward volume anymore. They lean toward order. And order has learned your name, not as spectacle, as trust. The moments that once demanded explanations now accept your presence as the explanation, quiet authority, clean intention, consistent follow-through. You have retired the decoration of grand promises and kept the architecture of simple truth. Claims got smaller. Delivery got stronger. You let silence carry weight where boasting used to burn energy. People feel safer, not because you entertain them, but because you don't betray them. That is the new gravity around you. Reliability without performance. Conviction without aggression. Humility without self-erasure. Timing has shifted from argument to agreement. What belongs does not arrive with panic. It arrives with precision. Invitations meet your integrity on the path, not at the edge of desperation. Refusals no longer bruise. They clarify. Endings no longer humiliate. They complete. You can bless what leaves because you do not fear what comes next. That calm is not passivity. It is mastery over impulse. So keep the line clear. Thought, emotion, action moving as one current. No quarrel, no disguise. Guard your tongue from harm and your heart from envy. Choose dignity over display. Sequence over speed. Truth over applause. When you hold that tone, life does not need persuasion. It aligns. Not because you seized control, but because you carried coherence. And coherence, by design, invites everything rightful to take its place. Power has stopped feeling loud to you. It feels responsible. The more access you're given, the softer your voice becomes. Not from fear, but from respect. You understand now, influence without purity becomes burden. But purity turns influence into service, so you keep your center unbothered by applause, unshaken by delay, uninterested in proving what steady conduct will quietly confirm. Recognition without humility is a storm. Recognition with humility is rain. It nourishes without noise. Notice how guidance arrives when vanity leaves the room. Answers no longer shout. They settle. The meeting appears at the exact moment your intention is clean. The right words land the second pride steps aside. The path clears when you choose dignity over display. This isn't luck, it's lawful alignment. You're done paying the high price of haste. You would rather be exact than early, faithful than famous, sincere than seen. And because you honor rightful sequence, timing honors you back. You've learned to treat your word like a ledger. No overdrafts of promise. No glitter you cannot afford. You speak carefully. You deliver fully. You leave space where vanity used to stand. People exhale around that kind of honesty. Trust grows, not as spectacle, but as safety. Doors open without pounding. Invitations arrive without pleading. Even refusal feels respectful now. A redirection, not a wound. Endings complete with grace. Beginnings start with peace. So hold the line. Keep your tone clean. Your boundaries gentle and firm. Your conscience untroubled by envy. Let thought, emotion, action move as one current. No quarrel, no disguise, no hunger for display. When your inner world agrees with itself, the outer world agrees with you. Not because you seized control, but because you carried coherence. And coherence, by design, invites everything rightful to take its place. Power arrived quietly, and it did not ask for a crown. It asked for care. The more reach you're given, the more you choose stillness over spectacle, substance over display, not from fear, from respect. You understand now. Influence without humility corrodes. Influence with humility heals. So your voice lowers. Your promises tighten. Your yes becomes rarer and truer. People can feel the difference, not as hype, but as safety. Rooms don't orbit noise anymore. They settle around order, and order carries your name because your conduct earned it. You've retired the glitter of urgency, that restless rush that buys mistakes at full price. In its place, you carry clean sequence. First truth, then timing, then movement. And when sequence is honored, doors behave. The email that used to require 10 follow-ups lands once and lands right. The conversation that used to spiral now resolves before it sparks. Even endings arrive with dignity, not humiliation, completion. You bless what leaves because you trust what belongs, and what belongs does not need to be chased. It recognizes your tone and returns. You treat words like instruments now, tuned, precise, never thrown. No overpromising. No clever sarcasm that wounds and calls it wit. No shortcuts that stain the result. This restraint is not smallness. It is stewardship. It keeps your field clear of the static that turns guidance into guesswork. And in that clarity, answers no longer shout. They settle. The phrase you need appears the instant pride steps aside. The path you need reveals itself the moment resentment releases its claim. Hold this geometry. Thought, emotion. Action, one current. No quarrel, no disguise. Keep envy out of your speech and haste out of your steps. Choose dignity over display, accuracy over applause, sincerity over spectacle. When your inner world agrees with itself, the outer world stops disagreeing with you. Not because you seized control, because you carried coherence. And coherence, by design, invites everything rightful to come home, without noise, without struggle, with the weight that doesn't hurt. You can feel it now. The change isn't loud, it's orderly. Where noise once demanded attention, clarity now arranges the room. Recognition doesn't arrive as applause. It arrives as trust, calm handshakes, quiet yeses, doors that open because your tone is clean. You don't borrow tomorrow's light to impress today. You let today speak in honest lines. Claims get smaller. Delivery gets stronger. And the world, relieved, stops bracing around you. This is not performance. This is posture. Not pressure. Precision. There's a gravity to clean intention that does not injure. It gathers what belongs and releases what doesn't without debate. Endings no longer humiliate, they complete. No is no longer an insult, it's guidance. Delay stops feeling like exile and starts reading like editing. The sentence tightening until the meaning is true. You honor sequence, first sincerity, then timing, then movement. And when sequence is respected, provision stops arriving breathless. The email lands once and lands right. The conversation resolves before sparks. Coincidence becomes choreography. Not because you pushed, but because you didn't fracture. Your word is a ledger now. No overdrafts of promise. No clever sarcasm disguised as wit. No shortcuts that stain results and then stain you. You tune every sentence until it carries truth without needles. People rest around that kind of speech. They relax, not because you entertain them, but because you won't betray them. Influence shifts shape, away from attention, toward trust. Trust is slow to earn, quick to lose, priceless to carry. And you guard it the way a steward guards a flame in wind. So keep the line clear, thought. Emotion. Action moving as one current. No quarrel. No disguise. Choose dignity over display, accuracy over hurry, mercy over pride. Refuse the glitter of haste. Keep the glow of honesty. When your inner world agrees with itself, the outer world stops arguing with you. Not because you seized control, because you carried coherence. And coherence, steady, sincere, unmarred by envy, is the quiet authority that turns a horizon into a path. Without shouting, without strain, with a peace that does not leave. You recognize it now. True power doesn't arrive with thunder. It arrives with calm. Where you once strained to be seen, you now prefer to be exact. Claims have grown smaller. Delivery has grown stronger. And rooms settle because you do not compete for oxygen. Your presence says what promotion never could. Reliability without display. Conviction without aggression. Humility without self-erasure. This is not withdrawal. It is weight. The kind that steadies a table when the room tilts. Timing has changed its voice around you. What belongs no longer sprints in breathless. It arrives with rightful fit. Messages land once and land clean. Meetings open as if prearranged. Refusals clarify rather than wound. Because you no longer take no as a verdict on worth. Endings too have softened. Not collapses, but closures. You can bless what leaves, trusting that order isn't subtracting you. It is shaping the sentence so the meaning reads true. Your word has become a ledger you refuse to overdraw. No glitter of exaggeration. No clever barbs disguised as wit. No shortcuts that stain the result and then stain the soul. You tune language the way a caretaker tunes an instrument, until truth sounds like hospitality, not a hammer. People rest around that tone. Trust gathers, quietly, like morning light. Influence shifts away from attention and toward stewardship, fewer announcements, deeper follow-through. And because pretense has left, guidance can enter. Hold this geometry: thought, emotion. Action, one current, no quarrel, no disguise. Keep envy out of your sentences and haste out of your steps. Choose dignity over display, accuracy over applause, mercy over pride. You are not trying to impress a crowd. You are honoring a line inside you that does not bend under weather. And when that line holds, creation does not need persuasion. It aligns. Not because you seized control, but because you carried coherence. Coherence is the quiet authority that turns coincidence into choreography, delay into editing, and arrival into recognition. This is the calm that carries power. And it does not leave when the noise returns. It stays, because it is who you are now. You've noticed the most reliable doors don't swing from flattery or force. They open from the inside when intention is clean. What used to require explanation now yields to simple presence. Not spectacle. Substance. You arrive without hurry. You speak without needles. You act without disguise. And the moment you do, the room chooses ease over edge. This isn't charm. It's coherence doing what coherence does, turning confusion into quiet arrangement. Invitations reach you without pleading. Refusals correct your aim without bruising. Endings complete their sentence with dignity instead of smoke. The horizon feels closer, not because distance shrank, but because resistance left. You stopped arguing with sequence. First truth, then timing, then movement. The message lands once and lands right. The meeting begins already halfway solved because you refused to trade integrity for speed. Even silence works for you now, a patient ally rather than an empty space. In that stillness, guidance does not shout, it settles. The exact phrase appears when pride steps aside. The right connection arrives when envy stays out of the room. The path clears the instant gratitude, replaces grievance. None of this is theatrical. All of it is lawful. Your word has weight. The kind that steadies, not the kind that crushes. No overdrafts of promise. No glitter you cannot afford. No shortcuts that stain the result and then stain the soul. You tune sentences until they carry truth without harm. People rest around that tone. Trust gathers, slowly, surely, like dawn. Influence shifts from attention to stewardship. Fewer declarations, deeper delivery. A quiet refusal to mortgage tomorrow for applause today. And because you honor rightful order, order honors you back. Coincidences line up like careful stitching, and what belongs recognizes you by the way you treat what doesn't. So hold the inner hinge that opens the outer door: thought, emotion, action moving as one current. No quarrel, no disguise. Choose dignity over display, accuracy over hurry, mercy over pride. Keep your tongue free of harm and your steps free of haste. When your inner world agrees with itself, the outer world stops arguing with you. Not because you seized control, because you carried coherence. And coherence, by design, invites everything rightful to come home. Quietly, precisely, through the door that opens inward. You made it here, not by shouting, but by staying, not by forcing, but by holding the line. The door that once felt bolted from the outside opened inward. And it opened because your intention stayed clean. No spectacle, no smoke. Just coherence. Quiet. Steady. Unmistakable. So hear this. With both strength and softness, your story does not need louder volume. It needs truer tone. Keep the word honest. Keep the heart unbitter. Keep the pace unhasty. When thought, emotion, action move as one current, no quarrel, no disguise. Life recognizes you without being convinced. If this resonated, let it be known, not for vanity, but for verification. Type it in the comments. Results are in. I choose coherence. Let the world see the tone you carry. Your sentence may steady someone else's storm. If you felt the calm return while listening, leave a like. It tells the signal to reach who needs it next. Subscribe, not to chase noise, but to keep company with clarity. Turn on the bell, so precision doesn't arrive to an empty room. Share this with the one person who's been walking in silence. They'll understand the language. No pledges you can't keep. No promises you won't carry. Just this. Choose dignity over display. Truth over hurry. Mercy over pride. Guard your tongue from harm and your steps from haste. Let your presence remain a refuge, a place where people breathe easier because you don't bargain with what's right. Remember the hook that found you. If your life has felt painfully precise, it's because you've been in a quiet entrance exam. The results are in, and the result is simple. You are trusted with more because you distort less. I honor the patience that brought you here. I honor the steadiness you chose when it didn't pay in applause. If you're ready to live as proof,